Hello Middle-earth Monday fans. I know I'm a day late with this video, but there was some pressing hobby that I needed to do yesterday, which had to be submitted by a certain date. So unfortunately your video got pushed back by one day. Apologies. So last week we did Get Off the Road Part 1, where I painted up the 4 hobbits that were hiding in the little berm. And this week I'm going to paint up the rest of it. So the whole diorama, the tree, the base, the Ringwraith, all those other bits and pieces are going to get painted and added to the diorama today. So by the end of this video, we will have a fully complete scene, and I'm very excited by that. Now, there was a couple people who were slightly disappointed with the last video in that I didn't go into full detail on how I painted the hobbits. Now, I did mention it in the video that I already have a video on how to paint Frodo and Sam, and then a video on how to paint Merry and Pippin. So you just take those videos and use them to paint those guys. And I also didn't go into great detail in this video on how to paint the wraith, because I've done a mounted Ringwraith video like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you just use that video to paint up that guy. But the base and the scene and the tree and the mushrooms and all the plants, all that stuff, full detail, full paints, and everything you need to know so you'll be able to follow along with that is going to be shown in today's video. So hopefully you're excited by that. Before I get into the video, as always, huge thank you to everyone there that supports the channel, either by watching the videos, dropping comments, making sure that you like the videos, and of course, subscribing. I'm sure you've all subscribed to all 3 of my channels. They, of course, make a huge difference how many people see these videos and how quickly the channel grows. So yeah, go for it. And then of course, anyone out there who goes the extra mile and supports over on Patreon, obviously you guys are my heroes. You keep the lights on, the cameras rolling. So thank you guys so much for that support. It's a million different reasons to get involved with that. Extra videos, podcasts, painting competitions, and then giveaways every single month. So if you want to win a chance of winning those, check out Patreon, linked down below. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in and get this diorama finished off. Okay, so as you can see, the previous video, I painted up the 4 hobbits, but I have quite a lot of painting to do today. And one thing that I wanted to do that I didn't get a chance to do because I did not have the drill bit the right size at the time was to put a magnet in to have this bit kind of connect more firmly. So I did pick up a 5mm drill bit, and I'm actually just going to hand drill it in like it's a pin vise. I just have to secure it with a little bit of rag so it doesn't kind of wobble back and forth, but I just drilled it hole deep enough for the magnet, secured it, and then when that super glue was fully dried, I attached a second magnet, obviously the opposite polarity, added a little bit of red paint, pressed it up against the wall so I knew exactly where to drill the second magnet in, which is a clever little trick I picked up many years ago for trying to get things like this to line up. So you just simply drill out the second hole and attach the second magnet, and there you have it, a perfect connection. It means I can remove the Ringwraith if I need him for games. It's obviously a stunning sculpt, so I quite like these removable pieces. And as you can see, it's very secure. And now I'm ready to actually continue the painting process. Now, like I said in last week's video, I'm going to give you full details on how I paint the base. I'm sure anyone that wants to follow along with this is the base that's kind of struggling with them the most. So rattling grime was first used to cover all of the tree bark. So any of the trees, any of the roots, anything that's coming through. There's a few bits where the hobbits are. There's a few roots popping out on the base of the actual Ringwraith himself. So make sure you get all of these bits done with that. It's a really nice, dark, rich color that works perfectly as a base coat for the trees. After this, we're going to grab some contrast wildwood and paint the ground surface with this. Once again, is a nice, dark, rich brown color. Perfect as a base coat for this soil. The amount of different brown colored contrast is quite staggering. There's many different ones, and they're all different and they all do something great. And if you learn which ones to use where, you can actually get really good results. So I do recommend broadening your collection of brown contrast paints as broad as you possibly can. I don't think you'll regret it. There's many different times where you can grab random different shades for little things, and it's just great. Making sure to also fill in the kind of underneath cavity and around the hobbit's feet and stuff like that. Obviously the root part as well. The hobbits are basically standing or sitting on a big root system. So make sure when you do that first coat, it goes on there as well. Okay, Mornifying Brown was then brought in as the first dry brush for the ground texture. As you can see, I'm using quite a small dry brush. And I'm just being very controlled and dry brushing just the ground texture at this point. We're not trying to hit any of the trees. We're not trying to hit any of the rocks or the mushrooms or any of those leaves or anything like that. Just the soil. After this, we're going to do the same thing again, but this time with Riser Rust. People often comment on why I use Riser Rust, but it is a beautiful color to dry brush ground texture with. It adds a nice bit of warmth into it. And it's something that most soil does have. If you grab a clump of soil, you will see some sort of orangey tone in it. As you can see, I'm going quite light, and it does work a treat. After this, we grabbed a bone color. I forgot to show the paint, but it is actually a Ushabti bone. And this is the last dry brush color for the base texture. And each kind of step we go lighter and lighter. For the very last coat, I put the horse into the base as well, and then dry brushed around to kind of blend them all together to make sure that one didn't kind of not match the other, which would be a bit weird. Skeleton horde was used for some of the inner bark areas, only where there's a bit of protruding bark. Obviously inside this big knot, and then the huge big cracked bit on top. I used some skeleton horde just to make it pop a little bit more. There's a few other frayed bits of wood that perhaps we could have done this with, but I unfortunately covered them with the dark color too fast. Steel Legion drab was then used to dry brush all of the bark. Like I said, we're keeping this nice and dark and muted. We want the scene to be dark and muted and have a couple pops of color with some of the mushrooms and with the leaves, and then have this menacing Ringwraith, and then obviously the colorful hobbits hiding underneath it. So it works a treat. Here we have Steel Legion drab. No, sorry, not Steel Legion drab. This is Skaven Blight Dinge, apologies. And I'm going in and painting up all of the rocks and stuff that you can see under the soil. We won't be leaving them clean grey because obviously they're in the ground, so they're going to be quite dirty. So there's another dry brush that needs to go on over some of these areas, but I wanted to get the base coat of the rock in first so that it can get the benefit of those dry brushes as well. Screaming Skull was brought in for another dry brush. You may notice a theme here, lots of dry brushing. So I bring this dry brush around and very lightly hit most of the tree, the rocks, the ground. You don't need to aim for like the flat bit on the top of the ground, but the kind of sideways look of the soil. This helps kind of blend everything together, but you can it's very visually interesting, the side of the base. You can see the roots and all the rocks and everything. And it just looks great. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you hit the kind of paler bits we haven't added contrast to yet, those flowers or anything like that, because yeah, it's a pale color, so the next contrast is going to go over them just right. At this point, I decided to glue the hobbits into place. Obviously, I'm going to be doing some more of the kind of, you know, the clean black like lines around it and cleaning up the sides. So I want the whole thing put together for that. And for doing the clean thing, I've fallen in love with this matte surface primer black from Forgeworld. It's supposed to be used like an airbrush. I've been using it for brushwork, and it's so tidy. I use it for all my base trims and everything. And just 2 solid coats of this will make anything go a really nice, smooth, matte black color. So this is a perfect for this. And because I'm basically done with the dry brushing stage on the soil, I get to tidy up the rest of the kind of plinth for this, and it looks really cool. Obviously, tidying up that section makes such a huge difference. Okay, some of the other details. We grab some Warp Lightning, which is a nice, bright, vibrant green. And we're going to paint up all of those leaves that I very carefully left alone in all the previous steps of painting. I also did the top of the carrot, the leafy bits of a carrot, which is cracked on the ground. You know, the scene where he's like, I think I've broken something. And then he takes out the broken carrot. That carrot is actually on the ground in front of them. So it's a really nice little Easter egg. So don't forget to do... Sorry if there was a bit of a jump there. There was just some weird technical glitch and the screen went black for a moment. So apologies there. So as you can see, with all of the green blocked in, it does add that beautiful pop of color, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Agarose Dunes was then brought in for all of the mushrooms that they saw on the side of the road. And obviously they're next to Farmer Maggot's farm at this point. And he is world renowned, or at least Shire renowned, for his mushrooms. So a lot of wild ones have kind of spread out from his allotment and they grow around him. So they're not like weird red ones or orange ones or anything like crazy high fantasy. They are those like nice brown and kind of pale ones. So Agarose Dunes is the perfect base coat for that. Bit of Fugan Orange for the actual broken carrot on the base. Got to put in the effort to make sure you paint it. And then a bit of Strachan Green was used to dry brush the leaves the first coat. Very lightly, just catching those edges and adding a little bit more depth to them instead of that flat contrast green that we got so far. It's a little bit too vibrant. And then after that's fully dried, we went in with just a very light dry brush once again of a bone color. We just hit the very edges of those leaves again. Helps once again blend it back into the scene and add a little bit of a highlight to those sections. Okay, and for all of those mushrooms, we are going to jump in with some Ogryn Camo and Ushabti Bone. we're just going to add a mid-tone and a highlight to these. Very simple. Nothing crazy. Leave nice shadows and darkness between all of the different mushrooms. I didn't highlight any of the stems or anything, just the big caps at the top. And it will make them pop off of the little scene. I really like all the mushroom details. It's such a cool vignette. Please, Games Workshop, give us more vignettes. I'll take 100 more, please. Time to add some moss from Dirty Down. If you haven't used moss from Dirty Down before, it's a great product. You need to shake the ever-loving hell out of it, including opening it up and putting something down to the end and like stirring it out, because it really does settle at the bottom and the mix doesn't work if you don't mix it all in properly. But when you do, I painted this into all the kind of crevices of the trees, and I like the kind of like moist, wet soil look to trees that are like deep in a forest, which is basically what these are going to look like. And obviously that's going to add a lot of color back into the scene, which was a little bit too kind of beige and brown for my liking. And then obviously we can paint a couple of patches of these on the ground and soil as well, just to indicate moss. Now I'm going to very quickly blitz through painting the Ringwraith, because obviously I've done an entire video on painting a mounted Ringwraith like 3 weeks ago. I painted up 3 of them in a single video. So if you need the steps or the paints or anything else for that, I will link that video here. And then you can, of course, go and check it out yourself and watch it. So just a little bit of brown on the horse, a little bit of black on the cloth and the fabric, some silver sections, some of the armored like horse head bit, the sheath, the armored boots, some of the barding. Yeah, a shade, and then just a very quick highlight of like Corvus black, Mornfang brown, those kind of colors to highlight the browns and the blacks. And back to lead belcher again for the silver sections. It literally takes absolutely no time to paint up these wraith models, which is really nice, because I still have to get my hands on, I think 5 more of these guys somehow. 4 more after this maybe. I need 4 more mounted Ringwraiths to have a full set of 9, which I'm going to need for a scenario very soon. So that's a bit of a pain, but we'll get there. This one obviously is kind of extra detailed and extra beautiful, but there's no additional steps. It's exactly the same. Obviously I painted up his base as I was painting up the scene, so that would all match and stuff. So you can see those green mossy sections on the ground. And with him painted up, we can finally place him into the scene where he belongs. And man, it looks so good. I'm so happy with this. I've owned this for 2 or 3 years now, and it's finally fully painted, ready to be put on my shelf and admired. I love the texture I got with the trees and the moss and the ground and the rocks. I think it looks so good. And yeah, that's another thing ticked off the list on our travels through Mordor as the Fellowship of the Ring. We shall be moving up to Buckleberry Ferry next, which I'm very excited to spend a little bit of time getting that river section done, getting the dock section done, getting the actual ferry done, and actually playing through that scenario. Hopefully you guys are excited to see that. It shall be very soon. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.